Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to continue with our how to build your first model kit using the Star Trek USS Enterprise 1/1000 scale Enterprise refit with battle damage. Now in today's episode we are going to start painting the model kit. I'm really excited about that, and we're going to show you some neat little techniques for you to use in your painting process. Let's get started. Okay, we're going to start the painting process, and I've got a fan running behind me. Sorry about the noise. You want to always be in a well-ventilated area when you're painting. Some modelers have a specific area in their house with an office, a little hobby room. They've got all the equipment necessary to make sure the painting is done where the paint doesn't go all over the place. It's sucked into like a duct or a little painting box that sucks in all the excess paint. When you use these spray cans, you know, you've got to have ventilation because they're basically spraying out all the aerosol and all that. But these rattle cans, you know, they're not conducive for inside. You've got to do this somewhere outside, and most folks use like their garage. So if you're going to use these rattle cans, get out on a patio, get into your garage, something like that. Make sure that this is well shaken. And in addition, I've got a little piece of plywood on a couple of sawhorses here, and I've covered it with just that cheap painter's plastic that you can put over it. And I'm using the little painter's spin table there that I recommended earlier. And I'm going to start with the flat white primer, and we're just going to go ahead and get this done. So let's take care of that. Oh, and by the way, as you notice, I have put a piece of tape over the part that's going to be snapped onto the saucer section. Done that on purpose. I don't want any paint to get on that area because I'm going to use glue, cement glue, and it's better when the cement glue is plastic to plastic as opposed to painted plastic on painted plastic. So whenever you put these pieces together, try to glue them plastic to plastic first without any paint. If you do get paint on there, you can shave it off with X-Acto knife or something like that. But in this case, I'm using painter's tape to mask that off. You can see how the force of the aerosol air coming out of this is turning the actual model. So I'm going to have to hold this while I'm painting. Just a light little dust of paint from afar. All right. I think that'll work. I can see that. Yep. Now notice how far away I am. I'm not getting this close to it. I'm kind of a good 12 inches away. Now it's because I want a light dusting of paint on this. If I wanted a more thick dust, a more thick painting experience, I'd get it a little closer. And all that. But all right, well, there you go. So that part of the ship is painted. Let's move on to the saucer. All right, so we are going to start painting or priming the saucer section. And I want to show you something here. The way I prepped the saucer is I've used some bamboo sticks that I purchased from, you know, a dollar store somewhere, a little package, and I cut them in half, and then I cross them into the saucer section to kind of hold them, to hold the saucer section onto this little stand. And as you see, I've kind of used some painter's tape here to kind of secure it. It's nothing fancy. Do it the way you want to do it. In fact, painting the saucer section, people do it many, many different ways. I'm doing it this way because I want to be able to turn this around while I'm painting. Some folks actually put the saucer section down flat, paint the top, let it dry, turn it back over, paint it from that angle. All right, let's go ahead and continue with the painting. Okay, here we go. We're going to start the painting process. Again, make sure you rattle the can before you start painting. And remember, this is not a full-fledged, thick painting when you put the primer on. You just want to be about 12 inches away. You want to, I'm getting the edges here, is what I'm working on right now. Get on the other side. You know, I suppose, you know, the reason you want to paint this from the top is so that you can make sure that you get like every part of the saucer, like at the bottom here. And you see how the masking tape or the painter's tape turned white. That's about as much as I'm putting on this saucer section here. What primer does is it preps the plastic for what you're going to use ultimately as your base coat, so that the base coat can sit on the plastic without interruption, right? If you notice, I'm trying to angle this so that I can get the back of that bridge, but it's looking good. Very good, very good. I'm going to do this real quick so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Yeah, that looks good. You can see that the paint is on there pretty well. All right, awesome. Okay, we're gonna stop there and let that dry. Just a quick supplemental on the painting process. Some of you may be asking, why did you paint the clear part? You notice that little clear area there I painted over with primer? That's because the plan for this area right here is to paint the windows black. In Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and at this scale of the model, of course, you don't really need to have full detail look into the arboretum there and see all the greenery. But in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, the movie, the lights were turned off. The ship was under stress, it was in battle, all the lights were off, the windows were black. So we're gonna keep it that way. Something else to mention as well, this model has a lot of seams in it and a lot of pieces that, as a snap together model, there's lines that are really open. Like you can see, like right there, that little area there, there's a big gap. There's a lot of modelers out there that don't like that and would fill that gap in with putty. You can do that if you want. For the purposes of this build though, I'm not filling in any gaps. I am going to leave the gaps as is and trust that the paint and the decals will distract from all the gaps. So we'll see what it looks like in the end, at the end, and see if my theory held true. All right, my friends, we'll be right back. Okay, everybody. These two have had about an hour to dry, and they're dry to the touch now. I'm not going to spray over them for another maybe 24 hours. So I'm going to let the primer settle for 24 hours. Let me get this out of the way so we can move on to the next section. All right, as you can see, I have a flat red. This is Tester's spray enamel. It's flat red. I'm using number 1250T, 1250T, flat red. It's Rust-Oleum. And what I'm going to do with this, FYI, is the clear parts here that we're planning to to paint, as you recall in one of my other videos, or I mentioned that I was going to, the chiller grills here are going to be painted with a red, a light coat of red, and then I'm going to spray a light coat of blue over that, and that'll produce a little purple effect, as you can see in the Star Trek The Motion Picture and all that. So, and Star Trek 2. So, once again, we're not lighting up this model, so I'm going to use paint to kind of give it a nice little effect. Now, I'm covering up the parts that do not need red paint. So this is the deflector dish. You've got the crystal, the crystal that's on the top of the model. They're all covered up, and the only thing that's uncovered on this tree here are the 2 chiller grills and the impulse engine. Those all have a base kind of a red coat. So let's go ahead and get these painted with red. Okay, so again, make sure you get out of the can. And I'm wearing a cheap little, I don't know if this is a food serving glove or what. I found these, bought them, they were like a couple of dollars. And I thought, oh, I could use these so when I paint these little pieces. I'm gonna hold this far away at first and see how this works. Okay, light dust really far. Let me try to do this in front of the camera. See how far away I'm holding it. You can see it's just, I'm dusting the paint on there. So it's not a lot, okay? And you wanna leave it like that because you want the blue to come through as well. The blue's gonna come over this. It's gonna look really cool. Let me get this impulse engine just a little bit better because that one does need to be kind of more red. That one's gonna say pure red, so I'm gonna just kind of aim. There you go. And you can see the big difference there. You see that difference between a light dusting and a pure red. So that's what you're looking for. And let's kind of take a look here on the other side and see what I'm talking about there. That's the outside, so this is going to stay that way. And we'll continue with the blue in just a few minutes when I get back. Okay, everybody, we're back, and I went ahead and removed the impulse engine from the stem here. It looks nice and shiny on the outside, and you've got the red on the inside. Now, this little piece actually has decals for it. Since I haven't built this model before, I'm assuming that the decals have some clear areas that you can see through, and the red will come out of that. If not, and the decals cover this little paint, at least you know that there's red paint behind it that you did, all right? So that's that piece. Now I'm gonna get ready to go ahead and get the blue. And this is Tester's, let's see here, Tester's light blue, number 1208T. So Tester's light blue, 1208T, kind of looks like that. That's what I'm using for this build. And we're gonna go ahead and do that light dust of light blue to create that purple effect, what should be a purple effect. All right, so let's go ahead and take care of that. And so for this time around, I think what I'll do is I'll just kind of leave it right there and spray from the top and see how that works. So before I spray, FYI, before you do one of these sprays, do a little test away from your kit. So I'm just kind of, there we go. All right, that's a light blue test right there. As you can see, I'm not doing a continuous spray. I'm simply doing spot sprays, so to speak, just to kind of make sure that I cover everything. All right, let me pick this up and see what this looks like here. All right, so you can kind of see the light blue on this side. Turn it around. Cool. So on the other side, I wish I could shine a little light through there so you can tell, but obviously this isn't going to work that way because it's not going to be lit up. But you can see some light blue streaking on from the inside there. I'm going to use a little more on the top one, and let's see how this works. All right. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and spray, since I know that the red is already on the plastic. I'm going to go ahead and spray some more light blue and be a little bit more generous with this spray. Okay, let's see. So it's a lot more light blue generosity there. A lot more light blue love on this. So you can see on the inside here what it looks like. And you know, painting is, or spray painting is just kind of, it's an art, right? You just test it, you continuously test it. And there you go, you've got kind of a light blue showing through the red. And it almost gives it an effect, a starry effect almost. Like there's stuff going on in the engines behind the chiller grills there. I like that. I might have used a little too much red, which is why it's not showing up. It's purple. It's all right. But I really like the way this looks. It just kind of gives it a starry effect from the inside of the engine, the chiller grill there. All right. Let's go ahead and continue with painting on the deflector dish. Okay, my friends, I took off the chiller grills and I left on the rest of the parts here. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start painting the deflector dish, right? So the deflector dish starts out with like a white in the middle and it comes out into blue. So the way I'm going to try to work this is, as you can see, I put a piece of tape on there, but I cut out a little diamond there. I don't know if you can tell. Let me see if I can put that light on there. It's a little diamond shape. It's not exactly a round circle, but it's a little diamond shape. And my plan is to make that the widest part of this whole piece, right? Because to make it feel like there's a light source right in the middle. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray paint that part, not just with a light dusting, but I'm gonna make it very white, okay? And then I'm gonna let that dry out, and then I'm gonna take off the tape and do a very, very light dust of white. Kind of the same effect that we did with the blue and the red on the chiller grills, but I'm gonna use white and blue on this. So it's gonna be from very white at the very center to a very light dusting of white to then the blue, okay? So let's see how this works out. And we have our white flat primer. Let's go ahead and shake that up a little before we spray. All right, there we go, a little close. And that's the white that I want right there. So let's see here. There you go. Let's see what it looks like from the other side. Good, you got a little spot of white there. That's exactly what I'm looking for. A little spot of white in the center. It's not quite in the center, but it is a spot of white there. And that's what I'm going for. All right, so now let me just take this piece of tape off. All right, so now we took the piece of tape off. That's what you've got there. All right, and I'm going to do another really light dust of white. Not a lot, because I want this mainly to be blue. So I'm holding it quite far away. There we go, perfect. Almost, ooh, a little bit too much there. That's what it looks like on that side. Let's see what the blue does. I might have to wipe that off. If you make a mistake like that, never fear. Just this type of primer paint, you can, sometimes comes off with water by itself. Sometimes you need a special paint remover to get it off. But I'm gonna try to work with it this way. Let me see what what it looks like with the blue painted on. Let's see what happens. As in all artists painting videos, you have a little mistake, see if you can fix it with more paint. Just like Bob Ross used to do, right? Let's see how this works. Start the test, all right? All right, got a little blue on there. Oh, I like that. Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's coming out really better than I thought. Oh, this is great. Okay, so here's what it looks like from the inside, from the outside here. So this is what you're going to see on the outside of the ship from the deflector dish. You're going to see not just a solid blue, but you're going to see a mix, kind of a mix of giving the effect there's a lighting source on the inside, even though it's not lit up. So, yeah, that's perfect. It's beautiful. Love it. All right, let me cut this piece off, and then we'll finish off the other two pieces here. Be right back. All right, we're back. I went ahead and cut the deflector dish off of there, letting it dry. And now we have this little crystal that goes on the top of the saucer section towards the back near the impulse engines. So what I'm going to do with this thing is I'm going to go ahead and paint this full-on blue because it is a blue piece. There's no need to, it just looks lit up all blue. So I'm going to go ahead and just paint that all blue. And if you're wondering, what's covered is the observation deck that fits right on deck 2, right below the bridge, the officer's deck. This should have been attached to the saucer section already and painted white with the saucer section, but I failed to put it on. So I'm going to go ahead and attach it to the saucer section later as a clear piece, and then I'll, paint over that as well. But let's go ahead and get that crystal painted full on blue, and we should be good to go after this. All right. Oh, beautiful. Okay, so again, the benefit of painting this from the inside of the piece, the clear piece, is that when you look at it from the outside is gorgeous. It just looks very, very nice and painted. And when you attach it to the ship, you're gonna get a clean, painted look with some clear plastic on top of the paint that gives it an even better realistic feel, even though it's not a realistic ship. But cool, that's done. We're almost done here. We'll be back for the rest. All right, my friends, it's time for that base coat. Now, this is the next day. The models have had a good 24 hours for the primer coat to dry. And I'm about to use the Tamiya TS45 Pearl White spray. And this will be the base color of this ship. And let's just get going on this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spray one coat on this, let it dry, and if need be, I'll spray another coat. Here we go. And I know you can't see it, but I can see the reflection of the paint going on. And it's going on nice and even because of the fact that I see the, when something gets wet, you can see the reflection of that on the ship here. So, it's going on very nicely. Now, so Again, always make sure you're in a well-ventilated area. All right, I'm going low on this can. Okay, I think that's good right there. That's a good first coat. I'll let that dry, and I'm going to put this aside so that I can do the same thing on the saucer section. Put this down somewhere. Let it dry. Saucer section, FYI, I actually straightened out the saucer section. As you can tell, it's a little straighter now. The previous time I showed this to you, it was kind of leaning one way. So anyway, I think this is a good setup here for painting. So let me see, I believe this may not be done. Let's try it. There we go. That's looking good. Turn that around. Yeah, we're done with this. All right. The new can that I just purchased. All right, looking good. Yep. Love the way this pearl white looks. Okay, let's go ahead and let the first coat dry. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to apply a second coat once this dries. So I'm going to give this maybe about 30 minutes. I'm going to set myself a timer, 30 minutes, and then I'm going to come back and place a second coat on both the secondary and primary hull. And then we'll be done with the base coat after that. Okay, everybody, we are back, and this is the next day. I've allowed these pieces to really dry out. So they've come out really nice. They're dry. They're ready to be put onto the model. Want to emphasize here that I'm not getting super detailed with this kit. You know, if I were, I'd probably brush this piece up a little, add some white lines in there to make it more screen accurate, you know, maybe do some more painting or try to brush this up a little bit more. But again, I'm not trying to get screen accurate. I'm just building a model for fun, helping you start your first model if you're a first-time model builder. I know I have some really good comments coming in, suggestions, and I love that. Thank you so much for those of you who are commenting, giving your suggestions. For those of you who are maybe new to the model building community, you're going to find that there's a lot of great model builders out there with some awesome experience and suggestions. So when you join this community, there's helpful hands out there, people who are willing to share their experience and knowledge. I love this community, and you're going to find that in the comments on these videos. So don't just watch the video, look at the comments and watch other videos too. There's some great channels out there that have all kinds of techniques. Okay, we're going to continue the painting process. Now, if you look in front of me, I've got a bunch of small little painting colors here that you can purchase. They come in sets, they come individual. As you can tell, I have Model Master here, which is an older, Model Master is an older brand. Testers is out now. I also bought a Tamiya, Pearl White to match the Tamiya Pearl White spray, because I may have to touch up the model. And so I wanted to make sure I had this as well. And you are also going to need a set of probably micro paint brushes for this particular kit. So I just purchased this recently, and it came in, and you know, I will say that on paper, when you look at the picture, the set comes in this rolling, it almost looked like a leather canvas, but it's not. It's like a hard cloth or something. It doesn't really roll like leather. It's kind of a hard piece of cloth, but it does what it does. It's a packing element. But these are small little micro brushes that you can use, and you're going to need those for this kit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a neat little technique that I use sometimes. Now, there are some model builders that actually, they're able to paint this freehand, okay? So you're going to see videos out there like Model Chili and some of these other guys who they're just excellent with painting freehand. I personally can do that with sometimes, but there's some times that I can't. So what I like to do is I like to use the painter's masking tape, modeling tape. For this particular project, I purchased this little modeling tape that you can get from a hobby shop or online. And I'm using this to kind of help guide me. So for instance, the little windows here that I'm going to paint black, I don't want to get that black paint all over the other parts of it. So I'm going to use this to guide me. Now, the key when you're doing this kind of thing is you don't want to glob paint onto your brush. You want your brush, the paint to be kind of almost dry, if I can describe it that way. You want the paint to be kind of dry, but and also on the brush, you don't want to get the paint all the way up into the brush. Okay, you want to make sure that you only get like a little tip of the paint on the tip here. So you're going to dip the brush into the paint, and then you're going to rub the brush against, a piece of paper napkin or something, just to get the excess paint off the brush. And the reason you're going to do that is because if you have a whole glob of paint on your brush and then you try to paint here, it's going to drip into the rest of the model. As great as these guiding masking tapes are, sometimes a whole bunch of paint will just drip in and underneath the tape. So when you're painting onto this, you want it to be almost dry almost. And so let me show you what I'm talking about. And so I'm going to show you on this piece here, and then I'm going to continue the rest of this offline. And so something else to know on this model here did not come, the newest 1000 models do not come with the Aztec detailing that the older model kits came with. Okay, so what I mean by Aztec is if you look here, you're going to see a bunch of these patterns all over the saucer and all over the ship here that are gray and all that. All this is called Aztec detailing. This particular kit did not come with that. You have to buy it separately. And today this is hard to find. It's costly or hard to find. So I'm not going to include Aztec detailing on this particular model. I'm going to leave it as a pearl white. The model did come with a bunch of decals for detailing, like this little blue area here, all these blue areas, and some of this other detailing here. You've got those areas that have decals. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. But before you put all the decals on, you've got to paint the parts that are not decaled, but they need to be painted. If you look at it, all the painting guide is on the side here of the box, the inside part of the box. You see the paint colors you're going to need here. And then I went ahead and marked with a permanent marker the areas that I'm going to need to paint. So I've got some blue here, some darker blue. I've got some painting that I need to do here and here and here if you're looking at the ship from the underside, and that's on both sides. And then there's also painting that I have to do here. There's black and black here. And of course you've got the painting on the side, the windows. You've got the black windows here on both sides. So I'm going to start with the black painting, and I'm going to do the very smallest parts first with this micro brush, and we'll continue. So let me show you the technique, and then I'll continue this offline. And the plan is, after I've painted everything I need to paint, I need to paint these windows, I need to put some black paint on here, some copper paint over here, which is what I have here. I've got copper. Now the model kit does call for a rust color. Rust or copper. I personally like copper for this. It gives it kind of a pop. So I've got lots of painting, detailed painting to do on this. Here's my flat black paint that I'm going to use here. And I've already pre-shaked. You want to shake these, and if it's an old can, you want to get a little toothpick or something to go in there, and just like you would regular paint, go in there and mix it. This is flat black, and I've already done that, so we're good there. Now I'm going to grab some from here, just on the tip. All right. It's a little hard to see because it's flat black, but there you go. Got some on the tip. I'm going to take some of that off. And let's go ahead and be very careful not to get the frame. But you see how that's going on? It's very light. And it's okay that it looks like this now. It looks kind of faint, right? That's all right. You want to do it this way because you don't want a bunch of paint to be globbing into to where it shouldn't be. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit more. Let me use some from the cap here. And then you just come over it with another layer, all right? Now, this is the way painting is on these kits. You don't want to, some folks go crazy and put a bunch of paint all over their brush and glob it onto the model kit. You don't want to do that with these model kits. You want to kind of put the paint on in layers. It just looks better that way, and it goes on better because you've got 2 or 3 layers of paint, and it'll eventually darken up. Like, see how it's darkening up here? Here's a second layer of paint. The first layer is actually drying up because it's such a thin, small layer. And now your second layer is coming on. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to be doing this technique on everything that needs to be painted. I'm going to start with black, and then I'm going to move on to the copper and any other colors I need, the dark blue, any other colors I need on this ship. And so you just want to kind of look at it. Now, some people, what they do is they put the decals on first. I don't recommend that because, again, because you need to protect the paint before you put that decal on. And so you want to get in there. And on this ship, what you want to do is you want to go into the decal set. This is how I did it. I opened up the decal set and I just compared the number of the decals. So each of these decals has a number on it. 53, 54, 26, so on and so forth, 27, here, and you can kind of tell based on the way the decal looks, what it looks like. And then of course, compared to the actual picture here, you can kind of tell where it goes and what you don't have on this set. And it was very apparent to me looking at the set and looking at the picture that there are no decals for this area, but they're blue, right? So I know I have to paint these duck egg blue, which is the color right here. It's called duck egg blue. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue the painting on this, and I'll be back once that's done, and we will show you the clear glaze process. Okay, I wanted to kind of keep you apprised as to how I'm doing this. Some of these painting areas require a little more paint than just a light coat, like I showed you on the black. So I'm gonna let this black here dry a little more, and I'm gonna apply another coat of black here. And if you look close, you'll see that some of this is not aligned very well. That's okay. You can always come back and paint over this with the extra pearl white that you purchased. Or you can use a toothpick, and sometimes some of this paint will actually, if you just rub it lightly, it'll come off with a toothpick. Or if that doesn't work, you can always lightly sand just ever so slightly. It's gonna, you don't want to do this. This technique I wouldn't recommend for beginners because it can take your paint off. But if you lightly do it, you can take the extra black off the top paint and it'll come out straight. I actually had more black up on this piece here, and I sanded it a little bit and it came off no problem. Obviously you want to wait till the paint dries up a little more before you do the sanding. But let me go ahead and paint the copper onto some of this so I can show you how I'm doing it. And this one I'm doing freehand. And when you're doing this with these tiny models like this, you really have to be patient. Very, very patient. By the way, notice that I didn't rub any of this paint off the brush. You do need to have more paint on this piece for the copper. So I'm just dipping it into the paint and kind of taking some of the paint off the brush here at the lid. And then I'm coming back here. And again, so forgive yourself a little. If you mess up, it's okay. Come back in with the pearl white, or in this case, I'm going to paint the little area behind this copper with some duck egg blue, and you'll be okay. There's your nice looking copper. I like the way that looks. Let's do that on the inside here. All right, there you go. Again, it's not perfect. It's okay. You don't have to be perfect. That's the whole point. Now, again, like I said earlier, there are modelers out there that are really, really good at what they do and paint to perfection. What did somebody call them? The rivet counters? One of my viewers called it the rivet counters, and that's true. I mean, good for them too. They do awesome jobs. I love watching those kind of guys work on their models because, man, they do it so well. All right, great. So there's a little painting, detail painting there. I'm going to come back. Oh, by the way, on this bigger piece, FYI, I used a larger brush. I'm going to come back over and just start going through and getting some more black on there. On the smaller areas, of course, I use the smaller brush, right? On the small areas. So we'll continue. Okay, everybody. This is coming along really nicely. I wanted to show you what I've done. I went ahead and painted some of the places here. I also went ahead and put in the pieces that we painted before. Look at how that pops. You see what I was talking about? That nice purplish red blue effect. It kind of makes it look like there's some kind of warp, something warping, some engines working. It really looks nice on both sides. I'm very, very happy with the way that came out. It's an effect I've used before on non-lit. You can also use it on a lighted model, but mainly non-lit models. It just gives it a really nice effect. And then of course the little dish in the front, there's that little dot that comes out, and it just looks like it's being lit up from the inside almost. I'm very, very happy with the way that came out. Now I'm going to show you something just to kind of help out. If you look at the torpedo launcher here, you'll see that there's some black paint that got on the little lip here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use just this little, it's a bamboo stick that I cut in half, so it's much longer than this. Cut it in half, but you can use a toothpick, anything with a little, you know, point at the end. I'm going to dip it in some of this pearl white, and then I'm just going to correct the mistake there. It's not going to be very noticeable. You'll know it's there because you're the one who did it, but people who look at this for the first time and look at it over and over again will not notice it because it's such a small little area. So let me dip this little tip here and then take a look. Almost as good as new. All right, so yeah, and this is just a way to kind of clean up those areas where maybe some paint got in the way. Well, you use this little tip here. And you just kind of dab a little on there and make a little line, and it's as good as new. People will not notice. I'm telling you, once the model's complete, you know, I mean, yeah, I shouldn't say they won't notice. Yeah, of course, you know, you look hard, you'll see imperfections if you look close. But on a display, it's kind of hard to see those imperfections. So there you go. Just a little cleanup there, cleanup tip. And it's looking a lot better. I'm still gonna go in there and I'm gonna paint these torpedo launcher shafts. I believe they're grayish, like light ghost gray or something like that, so they pop a little bit more. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the clear coat, and I'm going to protect the paint job with the clear coat, and then we'll move on to the saucer section as well. Now the saucer section didn't need any detail work done on it as far as paint, because most everything on top and bottom of the saucer has a decal associated with it. So I mean, from this little area to this area here to the bridge, even the little phaser arrays, they all have little decals for them. So the phaser arrays, now they're raised. I may have to sand these down a little bit so the decal fits nice on it. So we'll see how that goes. Normally you just paint these. I might paint it, we'll see. Oh, by the way, speaking of that, so the phaser array, I believe those are yellow. Yeah, they're painted yellow, which reminds me, I wanted to let you guys know, on the tip here, you know, yellow is not a paint on the list on this box. So, you know, the box has a list of paints here. Yellow's not one of them, but you can see yellow right on the tip here of the warp nacelle, right? And so what I went ahead and did is I painted this with what's called a navigation yellow, insignia yellow. Now, this is Model Masters. I'm not quite sure if they make Model Masters is even in business anymore. So something that looks kind of mustard yellow or light navigation insignia yellow would do. This is old, you can tell. Sorry about the mess there. But this was called insignia yellow. It was by Model Masters. Google it and you'll see, you know, what the equivalent to that is. I'll try to find it myself and put it in the description as well, or on this video while I'm talking. But what I ended up doing to get this effect, it's really, really tough to get that yellow little piece there. So I put a piece of tape across and I folded it this way. And then I just did a stripe of yellow that way. So it's really straight on this side. I hope you can see that. It's straight on that side. And then I just swiped it that way. And it worked. And of course you have to paint the back and the bottom. And you can get that effect by using a piece of tape. You know, as far as painter's tape. And I used, of course, the smaller piece, and I just taped it across there and then swiped back with a yellow brush. Okay, we'll be back, and I'll show you the last part of this painting video, which is covering this with a glaze. All right, everybody. Just a quick shot of what I'm about to do here. I'm using the clear glaze, and this is my first coat. And by the way, I'm using the stand and the rod that came with the case. Just get a grocery bag and a piece of painter's tape to secure it on there. You want to protect that because you don't want this glaze to get on that. It's a nice clear stand and you want to protect the stand from that. So I recommend you do this for this stage, because when the clear glaze goes on, there needs to be no obstruction on the model itself, so that the clear glaze can settle pretty well. So I'm showing you the stages. The first stage is to lightly coat it. 3 stages, right? Lightly coat it, wait 15 to 30 minutes, lightly coat it again, 15 to 30 minutes, last coat. And the last coat should be a little bit thicker, which would mean a little closer to the model. Okay, so here we go. First coat, light. So light spray. It's okay if you don't get every single piece, every single part. There, I'm just gonna leave it as is, let it dry, and I'll come back 15 to 30 minutes later. So I'm gonna finish this process off camera and do the same thing with the saucer section. On the saucer section, for that one, I'm gonna set it up again like I did before, where it was standing up on the paint stand. I think that's a good process there, and that'll keep it from, that'll make sure I get to cover the whole saucer section. Okay, thanks my friends, talk to you soon. Well, okay everybody, we are back from the clear glaze process of this whole thing. And as we said earlier, I went ahead and applied several different layers, and then I let this whole thing cure over 24 hours. Very careful not to touch this thing with your fingers, because if you touch the clear coat with your fingers and it's not cured yet, your fingerprints will show up. And as you can see, this looks beautiful. It's very clear. You can see it, you know, just in the light there, you can see how clear that is on both sides. It's very, very nice. And this is how you want your model to look before you put decals on it, because the decals themselves are clear and they're shiny when you put them on. And so you've got a shiny ship and shiny decals, then they'll kind of look similar to where when you put another layer of shiny clear glaze over those decals and the ship, they blend in perfectly and give you a painted on look. And then you, at the very end, after you've done everything, you apply your dull coat clear coat, and that makes it look like the movie ship. And of course, it also gives it that painted on look. Something else that I want to point out is I went ahead and installed the crystal window there that we painted earlier. And I installed this little piece here, and I painted it black. Now, the little observation piece, just an FYI, I had a really, really hard time pushing that thing in. That little piece, if you have that issue, what you want to do, I ended up cutting the, let me just give you an example here. This piece here came with, you know, these clips here at the end to push in and click on as a snap-on, right? And what I ended up doing is I cut both of these off on this little piece here, and then I just used cement and pushed it right in, and it's glued in. So if you have a problem with that on this model, that's another technique you can use. And then I painted it black after the fact, okay? So that's one thing to point out. And the other thing I want to make sure to mention to you is on the secondary hull. If you remember, I had it propped up and I had it sitting on the base, and the base covered. And as you can see, the base was protected because it was covered with an old grocery bag. I went ahead for the rest of the secondary hull. I took it off the base and I used my paint stand that, you know, that rotates here. And after the top half cured and it was already all dry, I put it upside down on this paint stand here, and I painted the bottom with the clear glaze as well, because there are going to be decals here at the bottom as well. So you want to make sure you cover the entire ship. And then I put a couple of coats on this over 15 to 20 minutes between coats, and then I let it sit for 24 hours. So this whole process took me about 2 days, if I'm not mistaken. Might have been 3 actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because again, you let it cure for 24 hours. So now this is ready for decals. This is ready for you to put the decals on. But I personally am going to use one more painting layer on this before I continue. I ordered some Aztec decals that didn't come with this, and those Aztec decals you'll see when I show them to you next week. But what they're going to do is they're going to add a little depth to this ship here, because the Aztec, you know, are the paneling pieces that make the ship look realistic. And so it's very complicated. There's a lot of little decals that you put on and then you paint over it. So I will go through that process with you in the next episode after this one. And you don't have to do that. That is a very advanced technique, and you do need an airbrush for that. But if you just want to stick with this, you're done with the painting at this point, and you're ready to put on the decals that came with the ship. That's these decals. I'm going to hold off on this until I get the Aztecing, and then we'll come to these after the Aztecing, and you'll know more about what I mean in the next episode. All right, last thing I want to do is thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. I reached 100 subscribers this past week, and what a great feeling that was. Thank you for that. You don't know how much that means to me. I really appreciate all of you who are subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, no harm, no foul, but I would definitely appreciate if you did. And if you didn't and you just want to watch, that's okay too. But please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you find this content helpful. Also, I want to thank you all for your kind comments. I've received some emails from you. I've received comments. Thank you so much for your encouragement. And thank you so much for those who are giving me pointers as well. It means a lot. I appreciate this community. All right, y'all. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, have a great weekend and happy modeling.